For years, Michael Pachter has been one of the most outspoken voices in the gaming business. Whether you agree with him or not, he doesn't hedge, he doesn't soften his language, and he rarely walks back a take. This is the same analyst who once argued that loot boxes thrived because consumers allowed them to, who criticized Sony for what he believed was an overpayment for Bungie, and who confidently predicted that Xbox Game Pass would explode to 100 million subscribers once Activision Blizzard titles were folded into the service. He even doubled down, projecting that Game Pass could hit 200 million subscribers within a decade. That's why his latest comments feel less like a routine hot take and more like a seismic shift. After Microsoft's recent leadership changes, Pachter stated bluntly that the next Xbox console is dead, and that Microsoft has already blown it by embracing Game Pass. That isn't mild skepticism, that's a declaration that the company's core hardware strategy has been fatally undermined by its own subscription model. To understand why this reversal matters, we have to examine what Game Pass was originally positioned to be. When Microsoft first pushed Game Pass aggressively, it looked visionary. Day one first-party releases, a rotating catalog of high-quality titles, PC integration, cloud streaming, and a price point that felt accessible relative to buying multiple $60 or $70 games per year. Under Microsoft, Xbox messaging shifted from buy our box to play our ecosystem. It was consumer-friendly, disruptive, and bold. Instead of competing purely on hardware sales against the PlayStation 5, Xbox began reframing the conversation around value and accessibility. If you could play first-party titles on console, PC, or even through cloud streaming on other devices, the barrier to entry shrank dramatically. In theory, that meant scale. In theory, that meant recurring revenue stability. In theory, that meant future-proofing against a world where physical consoles might matter less. But Pachter now argues that the execution, especially the restructuring and price increases, turned that advantage into a liability. His central criticism is psychological and economic at the same time. When the service approaches $30 a month for its premium tier, you're effectively asking consumers to commit $360 a year. That's the equivalent of buying 5 full-price new releases annually. Not every subscriber plays 5 major games a year. Not every subscriber consumes the buffet heavily enough to justify the cost. And when the pricing shifts upward after consumers have grown accustomed to lower entry points, churn becomes inevitable. Pachter frames it as an all-or-nothing model. Pay up or you're locked out. He believes Microsoft should have leaned into a more modular, cafeteria-style approach, potentially lowering the monthly cost while monetizing individual purchases more flexibly. In his view, trying to anchor the entire ecosystem to a high-cost subscription created friction where there once was excitement. This is where the hardware question becomes unavoidable. If your biggest selling point is that players don't need your console to access your games, what motivates someone to buy the next Xbox at launch? During the era of the Xbox 360, exclusivity and ecosystem lock-in mattered deeply. The console had a clear identity, a robust online service, and a software lineup that drove hardware demand. Fast forward to the current generation with the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, and the messaging has been fundamentally different. First-party games launch on PC. Some titles move to competing platforms. Cloud gaming reduces dependence on dedicated hardware. From a consumer access standpoint, that's fantastic. From a hardware sales standpoint, it dilutes urgency. Pachter's dead console statement isn't necessarily saying Microsoft will stop making hardware tomorrow, it's arguing that the strategic emphasis has already hollowed out the traditional console value proposition. There's also the issue of scale economics. Subscription businesses thrive on massive subscriber counts spread across predictable recurring payments. Netflix can justify enormous content budgets because it operates globally with hundreds of millions of users. Gaming, however, is structurally different. AAA development costs have ballooned. Marketing budgets rival film releases. If those games launch day one into a subscription ecosystem, the revenue math changes. Instead of banking on millions of individual $70 purchases, you're distributing value across a subscription pool. That can work, but only if subscriber growth and retention offset the opportunity cost of lost full-price sales. Pachter once believed Activision Blizzard's integration would supercharge those numbers. Now, he seems to doubt whether the price elasticity and consumer appetite are sufficient at the current tier levels. Another dimension to consider is consumer behavior fatigue. In the modern entertainment landscape, people juggle multiple streaming services, music subscriptions, software subscriptions, and now layered gaming subscriptions. At some point, consumers evaluate which services are essential and which are optional. When Game Pass launched, it felt like a revolutionary bargain. As the price climbs, it becomes another line item competing for monthly attention. The irony is that the more Microsoft loads into Game Pass to justify the price, additional perks, bundled services, expanded cloud access, the more it resembles the bloated cable bundles that streaming originally disrupted. Pachter's cafeteria analogy captures this. If someone only wants one or two specific experiences, why force them to pay for unlimited access at a premium? Then there's the multi-platform strategy. Microsoft has increasingly embraced publishing games beyond its own hardware. That may be pragmatic, especially given the massive acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Expanding distribution maximizes reach, but it also blurs identity. If Xbox titles are playable nearly everywhere, and if Game Pass pricing creates friction, the distinctiveness of owning an Xbox console weakens further. The company may be evolving into a services-first publisher with hardware as a supplementary gateway rather than the centerpiece. That could be the long-term vision, but transitional phases are risky. If hardware sales decline before subscription dominance is firmly established, the brand can appear caught in between eras rather than leading the next one. It's important to stress that Pachter has been wrong before, as any analyst inevitably will be. Predicting long-term subscriber counts in a volatile market is inherently uncertain. Market conditions shift, leader philosophies evolve, and consumer expectations change rapidly. The gaming industry has seen dramatic turnarounds in the past. The Xbox 360 rebounded from early hardware issues to define a generation. Conversely, the Xbox One struggled to maintain the momentum that the 360 had built, in part due to messaging missteps and strategic confusion. That historical context makes Pachter's warning resonate more strongly. When strategy and perception drift apart, regaining trust can be extraordinarily difficult. So is the next Xbox truly dead? That depends on how you define life. If success is measured strictly by traditional hardware dominance, then yes, Microsoft's own strategy has de-emphasized that battlefield. If success is measured by ecosystem engagement, recurring revenue, and software reach across platforms, then hardware might be secondary by design. The danger lies in overestimating how quickly consumers will fully embrace the subscription-centric future. Raising prices while hardware differentiation declines create a double pressure point. Some players step away from the console because they don't need it. Others step away from the subscription because they don't value it at the higher cost. If both happen simultaneously, the ecosystem loses gravitational pull. Ultimately, Pachter's reversal is significant because it reflects doubt, not about Game Pass as an idea, but its pricing architecture and strategic execution. He once saw it as the engine that would propel Xbox into unprecedented scale. Now he views it as the weight that may drag down the console itself. Whether he's right will depend on how Microsoft adapts over the next few years. Whether it recalibrates pricing, redefines hardware purpose, or fully commits to being the connective tissue of gaming across every device rather than the manufacturer of a single must-own box. The path to 2027 will reveal whether this is a temporary turbulence phase or the beginning of a permanent identity shift. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And if you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon, where the latest exclusive is how the Xbox One lost the momentum that the Xbox 360 had built. Until next time, game on.